Hey guys, it's me, Rich. Now, we just watched the Supreme Court hand down a ruling that Chief Justice John Roberts himself couldn't defend without butchering the history of the very amendment he was quoting. That's not hyperbole, guys. That's what happens when you read Section 1 of the 14th Amendment next to the men who actually wrote it. Today, we're breaking down the court's birthright citizenship decision, what Senator Jacob Howard of Michigan in 1866 actually meant by subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and why Trump is now betting the whole fight on Congress instead of a constitutional amendment. And if you stick with me till the end of this video, you'll understand why the Democrats calling this settled law are hoping you never read the congressional record for yourself. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel where we are MAGA first, conservative second, and Republican third, with the goal of bringing you the most honest news coverage of the day. So here's what happened. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court ruled against the Trump administration on birthright citizenship. And within hours, the president did something that should tell you a lot about where this fight is actually headed. He didn't cry about it. He didn't threaten to blow up the Constitution. He posted on Truth Social that Congress should just handle it through legislation. And here's what Trump posted on Truth Social. The Supreme Court upheld birthright citizenship, which is too bad for our country, but we can easily make it up in Congress through legislation with the support of the president. That has now been determined during this process. No long and unwieldy constitutional amendment is necessary. Congress should start today to work on ending expensive and unfair to our country birthright citizenship. They will have my complete and total support. President Donald J. Trump. Now, stick with me here because this next part matters more than the ruling itself. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts leaned in on the idea that the framers of the 14th Amendment extended citizenship to, quote, every freeborn person in this land. I mean, that sounds real nice, doesn't it? It sounds compassionate. It's also, and I say this as someone who's actually read the debate transcripts, not what the man who introduced the amendment said it meant. Here's Section 1, word for word. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Everybody stops reading after born in the United States. Nobody wants to talk about the second half of that sentence. But the second half is the whole ballgame. Senator Jacob Howard of Michigan in 1866, the man who introduced the 14th Amendment to the Senate, stood up and told his colleagues exactly what subject to the jurisdiction thereof meant. In his own words, he said, quote, this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons. Now think about that. He just said foreigners. Aliens. Aliens are people who belong to families of ministers or foreign ministers. It's not those people, it's everybody else. Remember, he said foreigners subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And Senator Lyman Trumbull of Illinois, he was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. He said that the jurisdiction clause meant not owing allegiance to anybody else and being subject to the complete jurisdiction of the United States, end quote. Allegiance, not geography. That's the part the Chief Justice's opinion conveniently skips. Now think about what we actually required of a naturalized citizen. They don't just show up and get a certificate mailed to them after filling out a form and paying a fee. They stand in a room, raise their right hand, and formally renounce allegiance to every other country on earth before they pledge loyalty and allegiance to this one. That's the deal. That's always been the deal. A baby born on U.S. soil to parents who owe allegiance to another country has never taken that pledge because a baby can't, which is exactly why the jurisdiction question always is about the parents, not the newborn. This isn't some fringe legal theory Trump invented in 2025, by the way. This goes back to the executive order he signed at the start of his second term, which argued the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born in the United States. Under that order, a child would not automatically get citizenship if the mother was here illegally and the father wasn't a citizen or lawful permanent resident, or if the mother's presence was lawful but temporary and the father still wasn't a citizen or green card holder. You see, the reason I bring that up is because the liberals will bring up Kim Wong-ark and act as if the Supreme Court in the past gave the rights to a Chinese child who was born here and his parents weren't citizens. But see, they don't tell you the whole story. The whole story is Kim Wong-ark, who was born here to parents who were here. Okay, they weren't citizens, but they were given permanent legal status, which means they got a green card. Now, when does the government give you permanent legal status? When they realize that you are not just coming here for a check or to cause problems. You're going to stay here. You want to become a citizen and you get a job. You support yourself. That's what that means. So Kim Wong-ark had to leave the country and go to China for some reason. When he came back, they wouldn't let him in because they said, you're not a citizen. So the Supreme Court, and rightly so, I believe, said that because his parents were given permanent residency status, that means that they had proven to the government that they really wanted to be here and to become citizens, and they were going through the process. So you got to stop the liberals in their tracks when they try to pull a Kim Wong-ark on you. Okay, now the fight moves to Capitol Hill, and Republicans are already lining up. Alabama Senator Katie Britt posted on X, quote, extremely disappointed to see this decision come out of the Supreme Court today. Congress must take action and end unlimited birthright citizenship immediately. The majority of the globe does not recognize this form of citizenship that has been grossly exploited to the detriment of our country. And she's absolutely right about that last part. Whether the media wants to admit it or not, most of the world does not do it this way. This is what's often called birth tourism, and it's a real industry. For years, families have flown in specifically to give birth on American soil. They get the birth certificate, then they fly back home. The kid grows up on the other side of the planet with zero connection to this country, and then when they turn 18, they decide that they'd like to come back and exercise their full rights of citizenship, including voting. China has done this with about 100,000 babies per year for the last 15 years. They come here, they drop the kid, they get the certificate, they go home, and he is raised under the communist system of the CCP. Then he comes back when he's 18, all 100,000 per year. Think how many people that is. And they come and they vote. They could change our elections. Now, maybe you hear that and you think, okay, it's just a handful of people. Who cares compared to how many millions we have here? I mean, that's a fair question, but ask it differently. What happens when it's not just a handful? What happens when there's tens of thousands of children every single year for decades? That's not a hypothetical anymore, is it? That's a policy worth compounding consequences. And it's exactly why Republicans in Congress think this deserves an actual vote instead of just quietly living inside a 157-year-old sentence that even the Chief Justice can't read correctly. So no, the court didn't end this fight on Tuesday. It just moved it to a building with worse coffee and even less trust from the American public. Look, whether Congress actually has the votes to pass something like this is a real open question. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's a slam dunk. But here's the upside. For the first time in a long time, this debate is happening in the open with actual senators, actual language, and actual authors of the amendment out in the daylight where you can go check it for yourself. That's a good thing. That's how self-government is supposed to work. All right, so tell me what you think about it in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.